Lesson 2. Setting up your Freqtrade environment. Last time we talked about what quantitative trading is, and why Freqtrade is the tool we're going to use. This lesson is the unglamorous one. We install things, run some commands, and end up with a working bot that can download data and run a backtest. Nothing exciting happens here, and that is exactly the point. Get the environment right once and you stop fighting it for the rest of the course. I want to explain why we're doing each step, not just hand you a list of commands. Because when something breaks in 3 months, and it will, the person who understood the setup fixes it in 5 minutes. The person who copy-pasted spends the whole evening on it. Why we use Conda instead of System Python? Your computer already has Python on it. macOS ships with one, Linux ships with one. And if you've done any development at all, you've probably got a couple more floating around. So why install another Python manager? The short version is isolation. Freqtrade wants a specific Python version, currently 3.11, and it depends on a long list of libraries at specific versions. If you install all of that into your system Python, 2 things go wrong. First, you can break other programs on your machine that depended on the version that was already there. Second, 6 months from now when you want to try a different trading framework or upgrade Freqtrade, you are stuck untangling a mess. Conda solves this by giving you separate, sandboxed Python environments. Think of each environment as its own little folder with its own Python and its own set of libraries, completely walled off from everything else. You create one called Freqtrade, install Freqtrade into it, and the rest of your system has no idea it exists. When you want to use the bot, you activate that environment. When you are done, you deactivate it. Nothing leaks in either direction. We'll use the lightweight version called mini-Conda. There is a bigger one called Anaconda that comes preloaded with hundreds of packages. But honestly, you don't need them. And mini-Conda is a much smaller download. Installing mini-Conda, I am not going to read commands to you line by line. And you shouldn't try to follow along by ear. The pattern is the same on every platform. You download an installer script from the official repo, run it, accept the license, and let it modify your shell config. On Windows, it is a regular graphical installer instead, and if you are a developer, I'd strongly suggest using WSL2. The rest of the course assumes a Unix-style shell, and WSL2 will save you a lot of headaches. After the install, you reload your terminal and check the version. If it prints something like Conda 24. something, you are done with this part. There is one tweak I recommend. By default, Conda activates its base environment every time you open a terminal, which clutters your prompt and isn't what you want. You can turn this off with a single config command so Conda stays quiet until you specifically ask for an environment. If you are in mainland China, the default download sources can be slow, and you might want to point Conda at a domestic mirror like Tsinghua's. I'll mention mirrors again for pip, where it matters more. Creating the Freqtrade environment here is where the actual work starts. There is a terms of service thing you have to accept first, which is a recent change from the Anaconda folks. Then you create an environment called Freqtrade with Python 3.11. Activate it, and you should see your prompt change to show the environment name in parentheses. From here on, every command you run is inside that sandbox. Verify it worked by checking the Python version. If it prints Python 3.11. something, you are good. 2 commands to remember for the rest of your life with Conda. Activate to enter an environment, deactivate to leave it. There is also a list command that shows you all the environments you've created. The critical habit is that every time you open a new terminal to work on Freqtrade, you have to activate again. It doesn't stick. If you ever get an error saying Freqtrade command not found, 99 times out of 100, it is because you forgot to activate. Installing Freqtrade itself, now you install the actual bot. There are 3 install variants, and the difference matters. The basic one gives you the core bot, backtesting, paper trading, and live trading. The one labeled with the plot extra adds the libraries for generating charts, which I think is worth it because looking at your trades visually is one of the best ways to understand what is happening. The all variant pulls in everything, including machine learning extras and Jupyter notebooks. The install takes 5 to 10 minutes because Freqtrade has a lot of dependencies. When pip downloads a long list of packages, that is normal. It is pulling pandas for data handling, ccxt for talking to exchanges, numpy, scipy, talib for technical indicators, and so on. Let it run. When it finishes, verify. Run Freqtrade with a version flag, and it should print something like Freqtrade 2025.9 or later. If it does, the bot is installed and reachable from your environment. The Talib gotcha. There is one specific dependency I want to warn you about, because it bites almost everyone, and it is called Talib. It is the library that computes a lot of the technical indicators like RSC and MAC. The problem is that Talib isn't pure Python. It is a wrapper around a C library, and pip installing the Python side without the C side installed will fail with a wall of compile errors. The fix depends on your platform. On macOS, you install the underlying library with Homebrew first, then pip install the Python wrapper. On Ubuntu or Debian, you use apt to install the dev package, then pip. On Windows, there is a precompiled binary you can use instead. If you ever see an error mentioning Talib or Talib, this is almost certainly it, and the platform-specific install is the answer. The user data directory once Freqtrade is installed. The next step is to set up a working directory. This is where all your strategies, your historical data, your backtest results, your logs, and your charts will live. Freqtrade has a command that scaffolds the whole structure for you, and you should use it instead of making the folders by hand, because it also drops template files into the right places. The structure has a few folders worth knowing. There is a strategies folder, and that is where your Python strategy files go. There is a data folder, where the historical price data you download gets stored. A backtesters results folder for the output of backtests. A logs folder for runtime logs. A hyperopts folder for parameter optimization configs, and a plot folder for generated charts. You don't need to memorize this. Just remember that everything the bot produces or uses lives under this one user data directory, which makes it easy to back up. If you ever want to move your whole setup to a new machine, you basically copy your config and the user data folder, and you are most of the way there. The config file, and what each thing actually means, this is the most important part of the lesson, because the config file is how you tell the bot what to do and how to behave. Freqtrade has an interactive command that walks you through generating one by asking a series of questions, and that is the right place to start. Let me walk through the meaningful choices, because the questions can look intimidating if you don't know what they mean. The first one is dry run. This is paper trading. When dry run is true, the bot does everything it would normally do: pull live prices, generate signals, simulate orders, track positions, but no actual money moves and no orders go to the exchange. You want this on for now. Honestly, you want this on for a long time until you've tested your strategy thoroughly. The cost of getting this wrong is real money, so leave it on. Then there is stake currency. That is the currency the bot uses to buy and sell with. USDT is the most common choice for crypto pairs. Stake amount is how much of that currency goes into each trade, so 100 means each position is sized at 100 USDT. Max open trades is how many positions the bot can hold at once. 3 is a reasonable starting point. These two numbers together tell you roughly how much capital the bot needs. If you are putting 100 into each trade and you allow 3 open at once, you want at least 300 USDT avenue available plus some buffer. Then timeframe. This is how granular the price data is. 5M means 5-minute candles. The bot makes decisions every 5 minutes. Shorter timeframes mean more trades and faster reactions, but also more noise and more fees. Longer timeframes mean fewer trades and more patience. 5 minutes is a fine default for learning. Display currency is just what the bot uses to show you totals. It doesn't affect trading. USD is fine. Exchange. The default is Binance, and that is where most people start. If Binance isn't available where you are, OK, Kia, or Bybit are good alternatives, and they all work the same way through Freqtrade. Futures. Say no for now. Futures trading means using leverage and borrowed money, and that amplifies both gains and losses. It is a fast way to lose money if you don't know what you are doing, and the entire rest of the course assumes spot trading until we explicitly cover futures near the end. Telegram and the REST API. Both are optional. Telegram is great for getting notifications on your phone when the bot trades, but you don't need it yet. The API is for connecting external dashboards. Skip both for now. You can always turn them on later by editing the config. One more key I want to mention, because it matters for paper trading, is dry run wallet. This is the simulated starting balance the bot uses when dry run is on. It defaults to 1000, which is fine, but you can set it to whatever you want to test with. It doesn't cost anything. It is a fake number that lets you see how the bot would behave with a given bankroll. Verifying the whole thing works installation that you haven't verified is just hope. So the last part of the setup is proving that the pieces actually fit together. There are 3 checks I want you to do. First, list strategies. Freqtrade has a command that scans your strategies folder and shows what it found. If you haven't added any yet, it'll come back empty, which is expected. Go grab the official sample strategy called Strategy 001 from the Freqtrade Strategies repository. Drop it into the Strategies folder and run the command again. You should see it listed with an OK status. Second, download some data. Freqtrade has a command to pull historical price data from the exchange you configured. Tell it to grab the last 7 days of 5-minute candles for the pairs in your whitelist. This serves 2 purposes. It proves your bot can talk to the exchange, and it gives you real data to run a backtest on. If this fails with a network error, it is usually either your connection to the exchange being blocked, in which case you might need a proxy or a different exchange, or you've been rate limited from hammering the API, in which case you wait a minute and try again. Third, run a backtest. Feed it the strategy you just dropped in, point it at the data you just downloaded, and it should print out a report with trade counts, win rates, returns. The numbers don't matter at this stage. What matters is that the report prints at all. If it does, every link in the chain works. The bot, the config, the strategy file, the data, the backtest engine. You are done. A few honest pitfalls. Let me close with the things that go wrong most often, so you can recognize them when they happen. The most common one is pip install being painfully slow, especially outside the US or Europe. The fix is to point pip at a faster mirror. The Xinhua one works well in Asia. You can set it permanently with a single pip config command so you don't have to type it every time. The second is Conda command not found, which means the installer didn't modify your shell config properly, or you haven't reloaded it. Reload the config file, or restart your terminal entirely. The third is data download timing out. Usually that is network or rate limiting. Sometimes it is geographic blocking by the exchange, and the answer is to use a different exchange or a proxy. The fourth is a backtest complaining. It can't find data, which almost always means the time range you ask for is outside the data you actually downloaded. Download more days, or adjust the time range. None of these are real problems. They're just friction. Push through them, get a clean backtest printout, and the rest of the course becomes about ideas instead of installation. Where we are by the end of this lesson, you should have Conda installed, an activated Freqtrade environment with Python 3.11, Freqtrade itself installed, a project directory with the right structure, a config file set to dry run mode, and a successful backtest on real downloaded data. If you have all of that, you have the foundation for everything else. In the next lesson, we open up that strategy 001 file and actually read it. We'll go through what a strategy is, how the indicators work, how buy and sell signals get generated, and how stop losses are set. That is where the real learning starts, and now that the environment is out of the way, you can focus on it.